Good morning, Algebra 1. Today we're just going to do kind of a quick clarification on some instructions here. I'm looking at this Algebra 1 worksheet 9.1, the number 6, rationalizing the denominator, number 2. So this was homework from yesterday and today, and I'd like to do 3 problems from here. But first, just a quick review on what it takes for a radical to be in most simplified form. There's 3 criteria you need to know. The first is there can be no perfect square factors under the radical sign. No perfect square factors in the radicand. Second, there can be no fractions under the square root sign, and there can be, thirdly, no radical sign in the denominator of a fraction. So I'm going to come back and talk about these in just a minute, and make sure you have these in your notes. So the main problem with number 4 is, and I want to start by talking about problem number 4, is there is a radical in the denominator, and that's what we're doing. We're rationalizing the denominator. So whatever this number is, the best way to get rid of this is to just multiply by 1, and the square root of 3 over the square root of 3 does not change the value because that entire fraction is the number 1. 3 times the square root of 3, we multiply fractions straight across, is just 3 times the square root of 3. The square root of 3 times the square root of 3, you could think of it as the square root of 9, but the square root of 9 is just the number 3. So the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, that's just the number 3. Well, then I can simplify this fraction. 3 divided by 3 is just 1, so those cancel out, and I just get this answer, the square root of 3. So I have all 3 criteria met here. There's no perfect squares, factors of 3. There's no fractions in the radical sign. There's no radical in the denominator of a fraction. Okay, moving on. And I think this is where most people are making just a small error. I maybe wouldn't call it an error, but not simplifying all the way. On a problem like number 8, the square root of 224 over the square root of 14. Whenever I see a problem like this with bigger numbers, I kind of like to tend to imagine simplifying this first and then rationalizing the denominator. So what I mean by that is apply your quotient rule and just think of this as 224 over 14. And maybe I don't know of a lot of numbers that go into both 224 and 14, but they're both even numbers. So I can just simplify this fraction. If I know they're both even numbers, maybe I go to the square root of 112 over 7. Well, I wonder if that could be simplified further. I don't usually multiply 7 to get 112, but I wonder if 7 goes into 112 evenly. 7 goes into 11 once. With 4 left over, bring down the 2. 7 goes into 42 6 times evenly. So 112 divided by 7 is just 16. And the square root of 16 is just the number 4. So I would not multiply by the square root of 14 over the square root of 14 here, or you're going to get some crazy big numbers that are just going to be really hard to work with to continue to simplify. Okay, I've got one more I'd like to look at today, and that would be the problem number 18. Okay, and the reason I'd like to look at 18 is they have some variables involved here. So again, just like on problem number 8, I can think about this as a fraction, and I'd like to simplify that fraction first to make my life as easy as possible. 24 over 48x squared. So 24 over 48, well, that just simplifies to 1/2. And x cubed over x squared, that just simplifies to an x in the numerator. So I might even rewrite this as just the square root of x over 2. Now, I have a fraction in the radical symbol, so I get rid of it by using my product rule. I have a radical in the denominator. I get rid of that one by multiplying by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. And again, we multiply straight across. The square root of x times the square root of 2 is the square root of 2x over the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is just the number 2. Okay. I hope this video helped in clarification. Please let me know if you have any additional questions as we move forward. Have a great day, folks. Bye.